Welcome back to Assessment 1, which provides an historical and cultural understanding of the rise of Trump. We are in Episode C, or the assessment's main area of discussion. C1, or Part 1 of C, which just concluded, examined the historical foundation of America's political culture. And C2 below will look at the country's initial response to that foundation. Okay, with that said, let us therefore proceed. The laws of physics state that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. And the same, I suggest, has held true for the evolution of American political thought. For beginning around the time of the Civil Rights Movement and the Vietnam War in the mid-1960s, forces that were racially and culturally part of the dominant silo began advocating for a range of ideological and social causes that placed them in opposition to the prevailing political ethos or set of ethos found in that dominant community. Each of these disparate social and ideological causes and movements contain a relatively small number of Americans, but they quickly coalesced into a mutually supporting de facto alliance, and then expanded this informal coalition by reaching out to not only the traditional economic and social minorities, such as labor unions and pensioners, for instance, but extended this hand across the nation's population divide in order to forge a functional alliance with the country's long-established ethnic minority silos, primarily African American and to a less extent at the time, Hispanic, Asian, and Native American. Consequently, over the last several decades, an informal coalition of minority communities made up of individuals advocating for a multitude of ideological, social, economic, and ethnic causes have congealed into a minority-majority force that is able, when acting in unison, to overwhelm the country's historically dominant silo across the political and cultural realm. This process has radically transformed the United States over the last 50 years. Radically. As the arts, media, academia, and even much of corporate America, especially its high-tech sector, has fallen under the largely liberal ideological sway of this new minority-majority coalition. And indeed, the above process has advanced to such an extent that today many English quote-unquote Americans now feel a palpable sense of national isolation and even marginalization, despite the fact that similar or like ethnic types holding common political and cultural views still hold sway within the historically dominant silo. Therefore, it was within this fractured national society, increasingly liberal, but swelling with deepening resentment and embitterment, that the expanding minority-majority coalition in 2008 elected Barack Obama. The biracial, born Pacific-raised elected president was a heterogeneous individual, both physically and culturally, whose only American heritage was white, despite his black identity. He was possessing of impeccable academic credentials and a gift for velvet-like political oratory. In the election, his opponent received almost 60% of the votes from the country's European American community, who collectively contributed more than 70% of the national ballot. However, the nation's minority-majority coalition was easily able to lift Obama to victory. Easily. In 2012, despite campaigning under the dark cloud of economic challenges that he was now held responsible for, and facing an opponent who earned in excess of 60% of the votes belonging to the European American electorate, Obama's minority-majority coalition was again able, without much difficulty, to lift the smooth-talking president to a second victory. In reflecting upon Obama's success, 2 points need to be emphasized. First, the selection to the presidency of someone who was twice rejected by the country's demographic majority rested entirely on his and his supporters' ability to successfully stitch together a majority coalition of ideological, economic, social, and ethnic minorities. Second, not so much the existence, but rather the extent and the degree of opposition to Obama from the political mainstream of the demographic majority was throughout his tenure habitually glossed over, largely because one of the minority silos strongly supporting the Obama presidency was the country's much maligned mainstream media, quote unquote. The surprise of many foreigners and Americans to the advent of Trump's rise was caused in no small part by the media's partisan failure to convey the full depth and extent of societal resentment to the new political paradigm. In short, many foreigners, and not a few liberal and coastal Americans, operated in almost complete oblivion to the real texture and scope of America's political sensibilities. Or to put it in a slightly different way, most casual political observers went about their daily lives in a state of media-induced naivety concerning the true span of America's Obama-era political sentiments. All right, that concludes C2, or the section that outlined the political and social reaction to historic America. The response to this reaction, or what I call in C3, the reaction to the reaction, follows next. Please join me, therefore, in C3 next. Thank you. And as usual, thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and most importantly, leave me a comment below so I may have a sense of what it is you're thinking. Good, bad, or indifferent. Thanks.